Alright, hello all and welcome to this session of CodeVita mock test. So we have very recently conducted a CodeVita mock test, and today I am here to talk to you about CodeVita and about the mock test that we had conducted. In this mock test there were 3 questions, whereas in the actual CodeVita you would get 6 questions, but this was again a preparation mock test, so we just wanted you to get ready for this mock test and hence or rather get ready for CodeVita, and hence we just did this mock test over here. So we've done this mock test and I'm going to discuss all of the questions in this mock test right now. But before that, a little bit brief about the CodeVita course that Edist has launched and how it can benefit you. And then I'll go straight to the questions. So for those of you who are already on the course, or if you're part of our partnered colleges, you can just skip a little bit ahead to the actual coding questions part. But for those of you who are not really on the course and who've not heard of Edist before, this will be really useful information for all of you. So if you're interested in knowing what is CodeVita, first of all, CodeVita is TCS's premier hackathon where it actually hires students by conducting a coding contest. For more information about what TCS CodeVita is, you can check the description below. We have a separate webinar specifically only for the TCS CodeVita challenge, what it is and what it actually happens in that. Now coming to the mock test that we had conducted, coming to the mock test that was conducted, you also can be part of the mock test by going to this link, that is bit.ly/edist-codevita9. You also can be a part of this mock test. And what happens when you go to this link is that this page opens up for you. So if you go to the above link, which is also available in the description below, this is the page that opens up for you, which is the page link of the course. So this is the course that we have developed by analyzing more than 100 previous questions of CodeVita and trying to create similar questions for you so that you can practice for TCS CodeVita. These are some of the information about the TCS CodeVita round. You can try out a free module right away. In fact, some of the questions I'm going to discuss today are part of the free module itself. When you click the try one free module, this is the page that comes up for you. Obviously for you, this everything won't be unlocked. This one free module will be unlocked for you. The rest all will be paid. And as said here, we are running a trial right now. So this is an early bird offer. Generally speaking, this is a 2999 course, but there's an early bird offer for you right now. So anyway, so we have this course over here as it is. And so if you're part of this course, you can avail the mock tests as well, so similar to the mock test that we had conducted just very recently. And I'm going to discuss all of those questions in that mock test. So what else do you get apart from that in that course, apart from the mock test? Well, you get 100 plus previous year's questions. You will also get a lot of mentor support. So mentors are online to help you out. There's a lot of support on the forums, and there's an early bird offer going on. So if you're interested, you can just sign up right now. So anyway, I'll go directly into the questions now, but again a reminder, we have a mock test every week. So the earlier you join up, the better for you. So join up as soon as possible and you can start practicing on the mock tests right away. So this mock test, we had asked the following questions. So we had asked questions called digit pairs, distribute books, bottlenecks, lexi strings, check pair with difference k, and matrix rotations. These are the 6 questions that were asked. Of these 6 questions, 4 questions, that is digit pairs and distribute books, this is already on the platform. That is, the question is also there, the solution is also there on the platform, on the Edist platform. So if you have not seen it, you can just go ahead and check out those solutions. Same with check pair with difference k and matrix rotation. Again, the solution is already available on the Edist platform. The optimal solution, you might have tried the question and you may have got the wrong answer or a time limit exceeded. Well, the optimal solution is available on the Edist platform. The 2 questions that were not available on the platform, or rather whose solutions are not available, are bottlenecks and lexi strings, and that is the one I am going to discuss with you right now. So that is bottlenecks and lexi strings. So yes, without further delay, let's get started on what bottlenecks and lexi strings is about. Both of these, by the way, are season 8 questions. So they came in CodeVita 2019. Not the exact question, but a similar question came. And so we are going to try to recreate those kind of problems over here. Right. So let's start with the first one, which is bottlenecks. So, and I'll open it up on the Edist platform also, so that we understand how to actually read a question as well. Right. So let's, I'll just open it up on the Edist platform. Here we go. So what we have here is there are n bottles. The ith bottle has a of I radius. So automatically we can understand that it's something to do with arrays. It's an arrays based question almost, right? So we have there are n bottles. The ith bottle has ai radius. Once a bottle is closed, enclosed in another bottle, it ceases to be visible. So we're just putting one bottle inside another one, and it's like an opaque bottle, so you can't really see that bottle anymore. Minimize the number of visible bottles. So you can put one bottle inside the other, and you're supposed to minimize the number of visible bottles. You can put the ith bottle into the jth bottle if the following condition is satisfied. Ith bottle itself is not enclosed in another bottle. Okay, jth bottle does not enclose any other bottle, and radius of I is smaller than bottle J. What does that mean? We'll come to all of these things in a bit, but that basically means that, let's look at one of the examples here. Right, so we have, these are all the bottles, right, and the way the bottles have been filled is like this. So we have 1 1 2 3 4 5 5 4, right. Let's come to the slides, and then we'll understand better about how the bottles have been filled. Excuse me. Yeah, so let's say these are the bottles that we get, right. So these are the bottles that we have, and the way the bottles have been filled is, firstly we put 1 into 2, 2 into 3, 3 into 4, and 4 into 5. So that way these bottles have been done, and right now from these bottles only one bottle is visible, that is the fifth bottle itself, right. So only the fifth bottle is visible because 1 got enclosed in 2, 2 got enclosed in 3, 3 got enclosed in 4, 4 got enclosed in 5. Now I can't put this 1 inside this 5, not because it's not smaller. I can only put a 1 into a larger bottle, but 1 is smaller than 5, so I could have put 1 in 5, except that 4 is already in 5. So one bottle can only enclose another bottle directly. Indirectly 5 is enclosing 4, which is enclosing 3, which is enclosing 2, which is enclosing 1. So indirectly 5 already encloses this 1 indirectly, but directly 5 can only enclose one such bottle. So we can never have a case where we have, let's say 1 is inside 2, and then you have another bottle 1 which is again part of that same bottle 2, or rather 1 is inside 2 and you have another bottle 1, or let's say another bottle 3 is inside 4, and then you can't take this 2 and 4 and put them inside 5. It's just not possible. You can either put 2 inside 5 or you can put 4 inside 5, both are fine, but you can't put both of them together into 5, right? So that's the issue. So that's why we can only linearly keep putting. I can only put 1 inside 2, 2 inside 3, 3 inside 4, 4 inside 5. Then what I'm left with is 1, 4 and 5. So what I will do is I'll do 1 into 4 into 5. This is what I'll end up doing. I'll put 1 inside 4 and then 4 inside 5. So finally what I'm left with is 2 visible bottles of 5, right? So 2 visible bottles of 5 is what I am left with. So just to formally note this, we have, you can only place a smaller bottle into a bigger one. You can't place 2 bottles together. So I can't place 2 and 3 inside 4. I can only put one bottle inside another bottle. I can't place 2 bottles together inside another one, which means that A into B into C is possible as long as C is greater than B is greater than A, but A into C and then B into C is not possible. Just like what we discussed, you can't put 2 and 4 both inside 5. You have to put either 2 inside 5 or 4 inside 5. You can't put both of them together, right? And what it's saying is, after optimally arranging this, how many are visible, right? So how many would be visible after optimally arranging this entire thing, right? So here 5 bottles are visible, and let's look at another example, the second example. How many bottles are visible here? Well, here I put 1 into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 7, 7 into 5, not 7 into 5, sorry, that's wrong. 5 into 7 would be the correct answer, right? And so now here only one bottle is visible, and that one bottle is 7. Now the question doesn't ask us which bottle is visible, it just asks us how many bottles are visible, right? So how do we go about doing this question? Well, one of the simplest brute force approaches that you can do is try to actually simulate this entire approach. Try to put 1 inside 2, 2 inside 4, 4 inside 5. Basically try to find the longest increasing sequence that you can get from this entire array, right? So there are many ways to do that, but you can this array is not always in sorted order, so you could probably sort it and then get the longest increasing sequence and so on, and try to do that. So because if you look at this question, in this example case, what we had was, we had 2 such longest increasing sequences, right? We had 1 2 3 4 5, then the next longest sequence is 1 4 5. If let's say there was another longer sequence, it would have been also there, right? So you try to always optimize that, except that if you do something like that, if you try to actually simulate it, it may not give you the correct answer in the optimal time. Now, how do we, even before doing the approach, know whether we are supposed to do that or not? this is where you get in the habit of checking the constraints. So if you check the constraints over here, n is 10 raised to 5, right? So there is 5 zeros here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's 10 raised to 5. Always remember one thing, that generally speaking, most compilers will not be able to take more than 10 raised to 6, that is 1 million comparisons. So 1 million operations basically, which means that if I am doing anything in 10 raised to 5, if I even go n square, right? Even if I go an n square approach, it will go 10 raised to 10 approach. And 10 raised to 10 is just not possible with our current constraints. As I said, 10 raised to 6 is the maximum you can go to. So you will have to come up with an approach that you just go through the entire array just one time, right? So with this, we will understand one thing, that how does it actually, how do we actually solve the question? We will, without even figuring out the answer. So what I mean to say is, right now we saw the constraint, we saw that it's 10 raised to 5. I can automatically assume that if I were doing any n square based approach, that is if I was putting two for loops inside each other, that probably would not work, right? So simulating the entire array is most probably not the case. Simulating this thing is not the case, which means now I have to start thinking maybe there's a better approach to this. And if there's a better approach, then I have to start making observations about the array, right? And that is the observation that I am going to make right now, right? So let's, before trying to solve, and this is the advice I give to every student, if you're on Edist platform, you would have heard this again and again, and I will again repeat it. Never solve a question by starting to code right away. First, take your pen and paper, especially Code Vita, you have 6 hours, right? And your aim should be to do 2 or 3 questions, that is roughly 2 hours per question. You should not be in a hurry. And the moment you notice the algorithm for this question, this will hardly take 20 minutes to solve. But anyway, you should definitely not be in a hurry. What you should do is take a pen and paper and try to write down the logic completely in that pen and paper. So let's try to make first the assumptions and the observations for this one. So when exactly can we insert one bottle in another? I can insert a bottle A inside a bottle B if and only if A is less than B. That's one of the first things. And at the end, how many visible bottles will I have, right? So this, I am pretty sure that this happens, A can be inserted into B, which means that 2 can be inserted into 4, but 2 cannot be inserted into 2. This is one very important thing. I cannot insert a bottle inside another bottle of the same size, because it has to be less than that, right? So it has to be less than the next bottle. Second thing is, what will cause us to have more than one visible bottle? So let's take a few examples and try to understand, right? What will cause us to have few, so I'll just put A can be inserted in B if and only if A is less than B, right? Now the second thing is, what will cause us to have more than one visible bottle? Well, if I have, let's say 1, 1, 2, how many visible bottles will I have? I can't put one inside one. I'll put just one of them into 2, and then I'm left with one over here. If I had 1, 1, 2, 2, I would still have like this. I would still have 2 visible bottles. If I had 1, 1, 2, 3, I will actually just put this 2 inside 3, but I will still have 2 visible bottles, right? Are you noticing a pattern over here? No matter how many bottles I had 4 here, still 2 visible bottles, because whatever I do, I can't do anything about this 1, 2, right? I just cannot do anything about this 1, 2 over here, right? I can't put this 2 inside this 3. I can't put this 2 inside this 4. You know, I could have done that. I could have put a 4 over here, right? I could have put the 4 here. Still would not have solved my problem, because I have still 2 visible bottles. I'm still not able to minimize it over here. Let's say I had a 5 over here, right? Probably I can put these 2 inside 5. 1 second, inside 5. But nothing happens here, or I can put all of these inside 5. Just the biggest problem is these 2 2s, right? If there was only one such 2, okay, will it have solved our problem? Actually, no. So this 1 would have gone into 4, or you know, there are multiple ways to have done it. So for example, you could have had, sorry for that, 1 second. Yeah. So we could have had like this 4 into 5. We had 4 and then we had 5, right? But I'm still left with this 1 over here. I cannot do anything about this 1. This 1 cannot be entered anywhere else at this particular point, right? Similarly, let's say if I had 5 and 5, right? This 5 doesn't get inserted anywhere. I can put this 5 over here. Okay, 1 second. Put this 5 here, but then I'm left with this another 5. So are you understanding what's happening here? If you just look at the pattern, the number of visible bottles will be equal to the maximum frequency of the number that we have. And think about it, right? The frequency which has the numbers or the bottles which have the same radius cannot be put inside each other because they have the same radius. They can only be put inside bottles which have greater radius, right? So if I have 5, 5, 5, I will need a 6, a 7 and an 8 to solve for this 5 to go into 6, 5 to go into 7, 5 to go into 8. However, that 6 can then not go inside a 7, right? So that because this 5 is inside this 6 and this 5 is going inside that 7, right? I cannot have 6 go inside 7 because each of them will already have a 5. Which means that the moment I have more than one element with the same value, I automatically have one more visible branch or a visible bottle, right? And the max and the minimum number of visible bottles I am definitely going to have is the maximum frequency of the elements, right? Just again, if you didn't understand, pause the video here, just pause the video here and then try to solve it yourself and then come back. Don't worry, this video is not going anywhere. You can pause it and then watch it. But think about any thing, and I'll just take some general numbers: A, B, 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 let's say B, B, C, C, C and D, and let's say these are in ascending order, right? Now I know that I can put A inside B, right? I cannot put this B inside a B over here. So automatically I now have to provision something else for this B, because it cannot ever be in this sequence of elements, right? It can't be before B, it can't be after B, because after B can come something like C, and then after C I can't put B again because B is less than C, right? Just so that you're all clear, right? So B is less than C. So B will have to go into another C over here, correct? But if B goes into this C, right, we have left still with one more C, and that probably can go inside a D, right? Now in all of this I'm left with 3 visible bottles, right? And why 3? Because I had 3 C's over here. Had I had 4 B's, let's say I take 2 more B's. If I had 4 B's, I would actually end up with 4 bottles. How? I would get A into B into C, that's fine. B into C, right? I would get B into D, right? And C into D, or I actually C would be left on its own at that point, right? C is left on its own here, or we would have B into C into D, but we still have one more B, right? So we have B over here. So we have 4 B's and we have B into C into D, 3 C's, 1 D, 1 A, 1 B, right? 4 B's, right? So we are still left with 4 visible bottles at the end. That's what we're left with. So the question, the arrays question, this question finally comes down to, if I go through all of the elements inside my, if I go through all of the elements inside this particular thing, inside my array, and find out the frequency of each element, then the one with the maximum frequency is the number of bottles that are visible for me. And if I just go back to my question, to get the maximum frequency, I just need to go through the entire array once. Getting the frequency of an entire array is a pretty straightforward approach. You can use the bucketing approach, that is you can use another array to count the frequency of numbers here, and what will be the size of the other array, again that's going to be big, because 10 raised to 18 is the highest radius that we can get, which means the other array has to have 10 raised to 18, which is just not possible. This will give you a memory out of bounds memory out of bounds exception, in which case you are going to have to use a map, right? So those of you who are familiar with Python, there is something called dictionary. Those of you who are in Java or C++, there's something called a map. You're going to have to use a map right now to figure out what's the frequency and which is the one with the highest frequency. So I'll show this to you in Python. It's pretty straightforward in Python to do this particular question. And the next question I'll show it to you in Java, because we had some students who are asking us in Java. So let's go ahead and solve this question right now, right? So what we want to do, I'll just choose Python over here, right? And I'll just revise the approach one last time. So what we're going to do is, we're first going to take input. We're going to go through the array, get frequency of each number, and then the highest frequency is the number of visible bottles. I'm just going to take this logic with me over here in the on the Redis platform. Let me just take that. Yeah, here we go. So let me just take this logic here. Right. So let's first take input. So first is the number of test cases. So we have t is equal to in input for case in range t. This is pretty straightforward, finding all of the input test cases. So I'm sure you guys already know how to do this. If you don't, we also have in this free module. So what you have here is one free module, right? We have how you can actually end up taking input, right? So we have this entire topic on how to take input in all the languages. So there is like in all the particular languages you can see how to take input. So yeah, and that's very important, and this is completely free. So even if you're not even coming to the course and joining the course, you can please go through it and at least understand how to take input. A lot of students in last year's Code Vita did not get through because they knew the logic but they didn't know how to take input. So don't be that person. So I go through this, and what's the next line of input? It is the number of integers in the array and the actual array. So in Python, I don't really care about the number of integers in the array. I mean, I'll take it, but it doesn't really matter for us, right? What we need is ARR is equal to list map int input dot split, right? So this input dot split will take the input is the string. Input dot split will split it into different parts and convert each one of them into int using this map function, right? And it's my habit, you don't need to do this, but it's my habit to always print the array to see that I've taken the input properly. Because if you've taken the input incorrectly, then later on debugging is a real pain. So yeah, I've taken the input. Obviously, it will show the wrong answer right now because I've not printed the answer, but I've taken the input correctly right now, right? So we have 1 1 2 3 4 5 5 4 and 5 7 1 2 4. It's just a small habit. You need not do it. I just like to verify always that I've taken the correct input. All right. So now in this array, I'm supposed to find out that number which has the highest frequency. There are many ways to do this. There are even shorter ways to do it in Python. I'll just do it in a longer way so that everybody understands. What this has done is it's created a dictionary, right? And what a dictionary is a key value pair. If you don't know what a key value pair is or what a dictionary is or what a map is, I suggest you really read it up. It's one of the most useful data structures that you will find. And it's something that all of you should know. We teach it in our Intro to Java and Intro to Python courses, so you can look it up there as well. Anyways, so we have here, I'll go through each number in the array for I or let's say for num in ARR. So for each number in the array, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if this number exists in the order or not. In fact, not order, let me call this frequencies. Order will be in the next question. So if num in frequencies, right? So that means that have I encountered this number before, right? If I have not encountered this number before, right? So I'll just go to the else first. If I have not encountered this number before, what I'm saying is the frequency for this number is equal to 1 because this is the first time I'm seeing this number. So right now, at least I know that there is one frequency. If I have encountered this number before, then what I do is frequency of num is equal to frequencies of num, right? Plus 1. That's what I'm going to do. So whatever was in, if it was 1 before, it becomes 2. If it was 2 before, it becomes 3, and so on, right? So now I've got this, and let me also store the number with the maximum frequency, right? So maximum frequency is equal to, let's say, -1 right now. I don't have any number right now. We'll see if in fact, I'll show you a better way. Maximum frequency is equal to maximum of whatever if our current maximum frequency is and the frequencies of num, right? So what we're doing is we're taking the maximum of the two numbers. If we found a frequency which is greater than maximum frequency, it'll just update it. Otherwise, it will retain the previous maximum frequency. And finally, we should just print the maximum frequency, right? That's what we should do. Let's run it and see. Right, so it passes the test cases. That's because here the one with the maximum frequencies is either 5 or 4 or even 1, right? Whichever one, but all of them are having maximum frequency 2, so the answer is 2 over here, right? Here the maximum frequency is 1, so the answer is 1. Let's submit and see, did it work out? Yeah, it did pass. It passed all of the 8 test cases. Great, brilliant. Let's just revise again what we did over here. This is a dictionary. What this will do is it will go through the entire array and try to see what is the frequency of that number. Let's say if this number is not in the dictionary, then it will just initialize that with 1. Otherwise, it will add it with 1. Whatever the previous one was, it will increment by 1 because we've encountered this number right now. And as we updated it, we will also see whatever is the maximum frequency, we'll update the maximum frequency as well. and finally we'll print the maximum frequency. If you didn't understand either the maximum frequency part or you didn't understand how the dictionary works, I suggest you please read up on these data structures. They're very important and they will definitely come in Code Vita. As you can see, this is a season 8 question, and why it's really important, why you could not have done this with arrays is number one, you cannot have 10 raised to 18 elements in an array. You'll get memory out of bounds. The second thing that you have to take care of is if you're doing this in C++ or Java, 10 raised to 18 will not fit into an integer. So you'll have to take a much bigger data type. In Python, there is no upper bound on the integer. Hence, it's easier to do in this particular case. But the logic is pretty much similar in both those languages. So yeah, just to recap, we found the maximum number, the maximum frequency of any digit in the any bottle in the array, and then we found the answer. So this was the question which is called Code Vita bottlenecks. Let's move on to the next question, which is called Code Vita Lexi string, and let's open up the question on the Edis platform to understand what exactly this question is asking of us, right? And yeah, okay, so let's open this. So we have some English here, and this actually is not as big as some of the other Code Vita questions. If you look at our previous video on digit pairs, you'll realize that some of the questions can be really big. The other thing before I start this question is both Lexi string and the previous question, which is this one, bottlenecks, right? So both of the bottlenecks and Lexi strings are second questions, not the first question, but they are the second question. So this is the level of question number 2 of Code Vita. That's the level of question number 2 in Code Vita, which tells you that it's not really difficult. If you understand one data structure, it's not too difficult to do. So don't think that you can solve only just one question. It's possible to solve at least 2 questions, and try to gear yourself to solve at least 2 questions. Okay, so now we have, what this question says is, we have a particular, somebody has jumbled up the dictionary, and now we're supposed to take a word and sort it as per the new dictionary, right? What does that mean? So for example, we are given a particular string P. This is the new dictionary. Generally, the dictionary will give you A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and so on up till Z, right? That's how the dictionary will sort all of the alphabets. Now, the question says that no, we have sorted the alphabets in a different way. We have sorted the alphabet in P, O, L, I, Q, K, U, J, M, such that A comes before Z, but it's the 25th element, right? So if you were to try to sort A, B, C, D, if you try to sort A, B, C, D in as per this dictionary, what you'd actually get is the first one amongst all of A, B, C, D is B, right? So B comes first, then D comes first, and then C comes, and then A comes. So actually sorting this A, B, C, D will becomes B, D, C, A, because you have B, D, C, C, and A. So we have excuse me, B, D, C, A. Similarly, if you check for this, this rearrange will be Code Vita. How? C comes first, then O, then D, then E, then V, I, T, A, right? So this string becomes Code Vita. So as per this new dictionary, we are supposed to sort this particular string S. As per P, we are supposed to sort S, right? That's what we are supposed to do. So this question isn't too difficult to understand, right? What we are basically told is we have another element, we have this dictionary, and as per that we are supposed to sort this, which basically means that if we were to just sort any string of alphabets or an array of alphabets or array of characters, the simplest thing we would have done is compared them on their ASCII values, right? So comparing them on their ASCII values, we'll get the answers over there. Here we are not comparing them on their ASCII values, but rather we are comparing what is the position at which they have occurred in this string over here. So what is the position in this string that they've occurred, so that I'll sort it over here. So the standard approach that we'll do is we'll store each alphabet's new position, and then we'll sort the word based on the alphabet's new position. This is easier said than done. How would we sort each alphabet's new position? Well, we could take an array and we could say that in array of 0, we will store A's new position. In array of 1, we will store B's new position. In array of 2, we'll store C's new position, and so on. You could do that, and you feel free to go ahead and try to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use maps, right? Using maps, right? I'm going to do that using maps or using dictionaries. It's much easier that way to do. We just have to create a key value pair of string and an integer. Much easier to do that way. So I'm going to do that, and then I am going to refer to this map when I'm sorting the new word again, right? So that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, I'll just take this entire thing here to the Edis platform, and I'll show you how to solve it. And this one I'll solve in Java and not in Python, but I'll actually end up solving in Java. So let's so because a lot of you are on Java, you had a lot of requests for that on Java, and I see a lot of requests on C, C++ as well. So probably in one of the future videos we'll also do that. Yeah, so now let me just move to the Edis platform. Yeah, here we are, and we will just put a comment here which is different from in Python. So we're going to do this, and let's try to solve this one in Java. It's shorter in Python, but I want to solve it in Java so that you guys get the feel of it as well. So we'll store each alphabet's new position using maps, right? And then we'll sort all the words based on the alphabet's new position. Okay, so first we'll just import everything, java.util.star, right? And next thing what we're going to do is this is public class main. By the way, if you want to do any Java code on the Edis platform, please use the class name as main. That's the only requirement. So use the class name as main unless specified otherwise, right? So we have public static void main, a string args. This is how it will go in Java. And then let's define a scanner. Scan is equal to new scanner system.in, right? So we have a new scanner system.in over here. And now first things first is the number of test cases. Int t is equal to scan.next int. Yep, that's what we got here. And while t minus 1 is greater than 0. This is all standard stuff about how you can actually take input in Java. So the first thing is we are supposed to take the new dictionary. So that's called p. So string p is equal to scan.next, right? And string s, which is the word, is scan.next as well, right? So string p is equal to scan.next, string s is equal to scan.next. All right, great. So now we got p, we got s, and you know me, I like to just print out whether we are getting all of the elements or not. So we'll do p plus s, right? I'll just put a space in between as well, just to see that whether are we getting all of the inputs and everything properly or not, right? So let's try to see. Okay, so we didn't get any errors, that's good. And yes, we are getting the inputs at least. So this is the input, and then this is s. So we've got s over here. So yeah, we've got that. Let's yeah, so now what we need to do is we need to store the position of p of each alphabet in p into a new map, right? So how will we do it? We're going to create a new map here. We're going to do a hash map. It's going to be a string to an integer map. So string integer, right? It's going to be a hash map string integer map, and let's call this one order. It's a new order over here, is equal to hash map string integer, right? That's what it is, right? So we have initialized our map here, which is called order. To put an element in this, we use the put. To get the element, we use get. That's as simple as that, right? Now we initialize this. Now we're going to go through the for int I equal to 0. What we're going to do is we're going to go through the string p, right? We're going to go through this string p over here. For int I is equal to 0, I less than p dot length. And in Java, this length will be a function, right? So p I less than p plus length, p dot length I plus plus. What we want to do is for this particular substring, right? So to get the particular value at 0, for example, what we'll do is we'll take string substring is equal to p dot substring I plus 1, right? I'll actually print this out so you'll understand what's happening. System.out.println substring. Okay, and just print this one. Okay, we forgot to put new over here. So there should have been new here. So that's why I like to keep running also, just to see if there are any compilations at any point. Yeah, so cannot find simple symbol over here. Import java.util.star, but it cannot find hash map. Yeah, because hash map has an M capital, right? So again, good to catch all our compilation errors. So yeah, we got this. So basically we have got all of the alphabets of the dictionary here. So we have P O L I K, that's what we have, P O L I K U J, M, N, H, Y, T, right? So through this we are getting all of the alphabets one by one, right? So this substring is that. What we want to do is, for this substring, this is the position. So we'll put this in the map. So we'll do order dot put, right? Which is the substring? It is substring str, and we'll put this I position, right? And I'll print out this order so that you'll understand what exactly happened here. Dot println, right? Order. So I'm just printing this out. Yeah, so you see now we got A is equal to 24, B is equal to 13, C is equal to 19. Basically now we got all of the new positions of this of every string, right? So D is equal to 18, E is 17, and so on. P will be 0, right? P is equal to 0 because it's the first one. So now we got all of the new position. Great. Okay. Now what we need to do next is break down S into an array, and then we'll sort that, because strings in Java, and for that matter in Python, they're immutable. You can't change a string itself, but what we can do is we can convert to an array, sort that, and then print out that array itself. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to break this S into an array. So what we'll do is string array. So this will be the array is equal to S dot split. S dot split, and we're splitting it across what? We're splitting it across a blank character. So we're just going to split it completely. And again, for let's just go through this entire array in ARR, and let's actually print it out. System.out.println x, right? So let's see whether the string actually got split into this array. Let's see that. Yep, it did. So we got, for example, BDCA, it got ABCD. Sorry, here ABCD is here. We got ABCD here, and then this was ATIVEDOC. We got ATIVEDOC, right? So it got split into an array. Now, but the entire point to split into an array is now to sort it, right? Now, how do we go about sorting an array? Based on not the comparison between two normal strings, but rather a different comparison. Well, some of you who've done Java will be thinking, oh my god, do I have to implement a comparator and a comparable because I want to use the collections object here and all of that. Well, you don't need to do all of that because you're slightly lucky here. The length of S, that is the length of the array, would at max be 100. So even if you do the worst sort possible, and the worst sort possible is bubble sort, even if you do bubble sort, which will be n square, you're still way below the limit over here, right? So it's completely fine. Yes, like the T can be up to 1000, at which point you will probably cross it, but you know, you can still take a chance over here and it will probably work out. In another case, you will probably have to sort it using comparator and comparable, right? So that's the other issue. But yeah, if it's up till 100, even, you know, bubble sort will work out. So I'm going to show you the bubble sort approach. You can do a much optimal approach using comparator and comparable and using the actual you know, approach, declaring a comparator and all of that. So for those of you who are hardcore Java people, do try that out. I'll show you the simple approach now using bubble sort. And so for those of you who remember your bubble sort, it is two for loops. We have int I is equal to 0, I less than arr.length, I plus plus, and then you have for int j is equal to, again I'm not even doing the most optimal one, so I'll just j is equal to I plus 1, j less than arr dot length, j plus plus, right? And what we'll check is, if what do we want to check? Generally, what we do is if arr of j is greater than arr of I, right? That's what we want to do, right? But currently speaking, the value of I, right? So we can yeah, so the value of I will be whatever is the value in the new order, right? So whatever is the new order. So for example, if we have this word over here, right? So we have A, we don't compare A and B, rather we have to compare the new value of A with the new value of B. How do we get the new value of A? We can use the order.get arr of I, that is I'm getting whatever is the value of arr of I. If it's greater than order of get arr of j, right, which means the greater element is coming before, right? At that case we need to swap, so we do string temp is equal to arr of j, arr of j is equal to arr of I, and arr of I is equal to temp. So now they have been swapped, right? This is the end of our bubble sort, and after the bubble sort, what do we need to do? We just need to print the entire array. So for we can just go for string x in array, right? System dot out dot print x, right? Or you could build the string again, up to you. I'll just print it out here because we're not supposed to return anything. Just have to print system dot out dot println. This will put a new line over there, right? So let's run this and see whether this works out for us, right? It did. It passed the test cases, and I'll just check if it's submitting and working, and then I'll explain how this happened, right? Yeah, it works out for all the test cases. Great. So what we did here is, we step by step we saw it completely. That is, we created this order, right? Through this order, what we did was we put for this substring what is the value. So and this substring was P, U, K, A, B, C, D, and we put what's the new value. Like we put the index where it's occurring in the dictionary, right? So because of this, we got that A is 25, P is 0, and so on. We were able to get that, right? Now what we'll do is when we have the array of the word, that is S is the word over here, that is either A, B, C, D or A, T, I, V, E, D, O, C, right? But in both of these words, we will try to sort the array, but we'll sort the array not by the inherent value of ARR of I, but rather what is that value of ARR of I in the new dictionary, and that is present in the order, right? So in the order map or in the order dictionary, it's present there. So if this ARR is greater than ARR of J, then we have this issue over here. So we swap it, and this is very simple bubble sort. If you don't know bubble sort, again, sign up for our basic Java or Python courses, and you'll get the value of so you'll get more tutorials on bubble sort and quick sort and all of these sorts. It is something you absolutely need to know. Please revise on all those concepts before coming to CodeVita course that Edist has. If you do that, if you come without that, then you will not be able to learn much, because CodeVita does require a basic level of understanding from you, right? So just to recap, these are the two questions we've done today, which is we've done Lexi strings, and so we did the Lexi string question, which is we did just now. We saw the Java solution for it, and the bottlenecks question, which we saw the Python solution for. And if you understood the bottlenecks Python solution, Lexi string Python solution is very straightforward as well. So I leave that up to you to do. You just have to use a sort function and then the lambda function to sort it in Python, right? So just a reminder, everybody, you can sign up for the CodeVita pack on Edist using this URL, right? If you have any doubts or questions regarding the pack, you can reach out to us on this number below. That's the WhatsApp number is here, and you can also reach out to us on the email, and we'll reply over there. For more information, just go to edist.com or reach out to us on any of these links. And as always, a request to like this video and share this video with all your friends who are preparing for CodeVita, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more such information. Please sign up for the CodeVita course. So if you want to take mock tests every week, this was this week's mock test. Stay tuned for next week's mock test, which will be coming soon. Thank you everybody for joining in today, and wishing you all the best. Thank you.